always ask yourself, what kind of content am I very comfortable doing?
Hey guys, I'm AJ.
I'm Rini.
And welcome to TFA Talkshow. Today we have none other than Manisha Dalani. She's a content writer and marketer. In her decade-long career, she has supported several publications, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. She started Mini Marketing Hacks as an effort to help busy business people catch up with quick marketing tips and tricks to help them achieve organic growth at a low budget. She enjoys most of all is burying her nose in books and eating chocolate cake. Welcome, Manisha.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
Good, thank you.
Nice. Okay. What are some ways to know what content fits?
Okay. So in terms of content marketing, when we start deciding, okay, we want to do content, the first few questions that we ask ourselves is, what do you want to do content marketing for?
Right.
So if, say, for instance, you want to do brand awareness, then you do a specific kind of content for that. If you want to do traffic, then we do a specific kind of content for that. And then there's
Right.
also conversions or your lead generation. So there are different parts, different metrics that we follow and different parts of the funnel. So for instance, if you're talking about brands, like you are new, for instance, you know, your brand has just launched, you are trying to find out what kind of content fits with trying to get the most brand awareness. So of
Right.
course we will tell you the most important thing is to build brand awareness, brand presence
Yep.
rather. So you start maybe on your website, you have good content on your website. You know, you write the right kind of copy, so when people fall onto your website, they understand what you're doing.
Right.
And then maybe on social media you have your brand assets, like your image is also a content, your bio is also a content, what you put on your feed is also content. So the kind of things that you put has to sort of relate to what is the metrics or the goal that you want to do. For instance, someone like me who already has been in business for almost a decade, brand awareness is something that's always in the background, but there's this concentration is more towards traffic or more lead generation. So I think about more like, okay, for my traffic, what do I do for SEO? I'm on social media on Instagram. So for that, the strategy is a little different. It's a bit more hashtags, engagement.
Yeah.
So with content, it's the content type, but then there are strategies to elevate the content, to lift up your content. So that's where different digital marketing strategies like social media, email marketing, they all sort of come in and then go into the same funnel.
So now that we know that we need to know like what content fits, right? Is there any way that where can one gain content ideas from?
Content ideas can come from anywhere, really. It's sort of, you know, if you are, say, you're not even a business person and you're a storyteller, you think of things from your imagination. Like Harry Potter came from where, right?
Yeah.
So it's your imagination, your real life stories that you sort of exaggerate in your head. But when it comes to business, it's more, okay, what do my customers want? Right? So you think of content in the terms of, will this be valuable for the person who's going to end up becoming my customer, or will this be a valuable tip for someone to follow me or to, you know, keep engaging with me? So when it comes to ideas like that, you sort of go back to the person that you're trying to target, and for that you read a lot. You will read a lot of books, you will read a lot of forums, what are the question and answer people are asking you. That is if you don't have an audience yet. If you already have an audience, there will be questions that your audience will ask. Say, for example, you do food delivery. Someone will come and ask you, when do you do the orders? When do you take orders? So that's already a question that you can make content for. Like, this is the days that we do orders. These are the timings that we do delivery. Those are little pieces you make from questions that are frequently asked. So that's actually a very valuable thing. Sometimes we always think, where do we get ideas from? Like, we try to dig our mind when actually someone is already asking us a question. Just answer the question. So sometimes it's as simple as that. If you have sort of exhausted that, then you know, you work with content creators who are always coming up with different ideas. So you have one question that can be answered in 10 different ways. You know, so it's sort of that's where repurposing content sort of comes in. So you come up with like a blog post with like really long content, and then you come up with 20 social media posts for that one blog post.
Right.
Yeah, ideas are just immense. They're everywhere.
I like the frequently asked question, but I didn't know that question can actually be a content. I thought question is like, okay, I answer and then I'm done, you know?
No. So let's say, for instance, someone I think once asked me, what are the ways that I can make my website better in terms of content? So obviously, the main answer will be, in terms of content, it will be okay. Maybe write blog posts.
Yeah.
That would be a typical content marketer's way of thinking. But
Right.
if I write blog posts for you and your website doesn't load properly, your images are not optimized, I go into your website, it's lagging, no one's going to read your blog post. So my answer is also part of the process is I will also help you do an audit to make sure that your website speed is good. You know,
Right.
because that's one of the reasons why websites don't work is because your speed is really, really bad. And people nowadays want things like, fast. So if your
Right,
website takes more
instant.
than 5 seconds to load, you're like, I give up, bye. So yeah, so it's the whole. So one question would be to make your website better, check your optimization of your images, make sure your speed is loading. Nothing to do with what I offer, but it's valuable content for my client to see. In fact, I should tell my client that, because if not, they will be like, oh, you write so much but it's still not working. No point I write for you if your website is not going to get people to actually wait and read, or actually reach the page to read. Yeah.
What's the importance of getting your content marketing right?
So a lot of us, when we start whatever type of content that we do, whether it's for social media, website, blogging, email, blah, 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 the whole list goes on, right? We always get excited and we want to get likes really fast. We want to get followed. Even myself, I'm guilty of this too. I'm like, hey, why nobody like my post today? So sad. But I think, again, it comes back to the same thing as I was saying earlier, the goals. So once we know what we are gunning for,
Right.
we sort of work in the right direction. When businesses start and they're like, okay, I want to do content marketing, a lot of us don't know. Like when I started Mini Marketing Hacks, I wanted to help my clients
Right.
kind of get easy tips. But I'm pretty sure more than my 5-6 clients will benefit from this.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't know whether it's small businesses, I don't know if it's big businesses. I'm just going to keep pushing out content which is valuable to my existing pool, and then I will test it out. So some people came back to me and they were like, okay, we know this, we don't need to, Then some were like, no, I really don't know this. And thank you for giving me this information.
Exactly,
So my goal in the beginning was very questionable because it was just something I started from my passion. But now I understand the audience better and I get the right sort of content fit based on where I want to go with this little business of mine. So once you know that it's right and you tweak it accordingly, it becomes relatable to your audience. It sort of gives you good enough data and analysis to see what's working and what's not, and what you can continue. And then it's sometimes I work with people. I always ask them what their goal is. Most of our goals is to make money. Let's be honest. It's either get rich or get famous. And if it's get famous, then I cannot work with you because I'm not very famous myself. So, get rich is something like, okay, we can work towards that because we all have either a solution, a service, or a product. So at the end of the day, the funnel goes to please buy my service or buy my product or employ my services. So you need to know the right kind of content that can help everybody take that one step closer to actually sort of purchasing from you.
Do you have any best practices for freelancers that they can actually adopt into their business or into their like product services? Yeah.
You mean in terms of content marketing, right?
Yeah, content wise,
okay.
Correct.
I think one of the things that happens to a lot of solopreneurs is we get very overwhelmed. Like we want to do everything because we're like,
oh my god, yes.
To be honest,
no
we
choice,
don't.
right?
Yeah, we don't know what works. Like sometimes people are like, "Hey, Manisha, you got so many ideas. You start podcast." Then I'm like, "With this voice, you want me to start podcast?" I'm like, "No, I'm not a speaker, and I'm not very comfortable on camera alone." So I don't even do it on my own Instagram. You think I want to start channel? No. So I think one of these things that I've realized in many years of working alone is do what you're comfortable with first. Like when you decide that you want to do something, always ask yourself, I'm going to spend X number of hours a day doing this, creating this kind of content. What kind of content am I very comfortable doing? So for me, it's writing. For you guys, it could be video, audio, right? So once you establish that comfort zone, you don't drive yourself crazy, pushing yourself and and you're going to end up hating yourself later on when you do the type of content that you don't want to do. And on the opposing end, your audience will see that you're not very genuine because you're forcing yourself. It sort of like, I have an IGTV video on my Instagram where I'm talking to myself like very sad. Like I know what I'm saying makes sense.
Right.
But because I'm so timid in speaking to myself, I'm like, like so shy. And I know a lot of people are not going to, they prefer seeing my photos and my captions because I'm more myself that way. They can relate more that way. They can see how genuine I am that way. So when it comes to actually creating content, I think you have to very early on decide. Of course, as a marketer, our job is to try everything. Like someone was telling me about TikTok the other day. And I'm like, okay, I'm not comfortable with videos, so I might not try TikTok. But that doesn't mean that I've not played around with TikTok because a client of mine might need it. So, I have to be familiar with all the other sort of content that can be created. I know how to do video editing. I know how to do audio editing. But do I do it? No, you can say I'm a bit lazy in that sense. Writing is my forte. The second thing is always ask yourself with the content that you are creating, where will your client end up? A lot of clients that I work with do not ask themselves this question. They're like, Manisha, create for me Instagram captions. Manisha, create for me, edit one photo for me, or write a blog post for me. And I'm like, for what? Where is the client going to go? Yes, if you're starting, you want to say, I just want to build my brand. I just want to build my traffic. Good. But once the traffic comes to your website, for instance, what then? How easy is it for them to click one and either understand what you do for beginners, or if you're already very well versed with what you do, you know your product or your service range is XXX, then you probably will have to take a step and say, okay, I want this blog post to go into a funnel where they buy a particular thing that I'm not hard selling, but sort of going in that direction. So it's always helpful to go from point A. So where's the end point that you want the client to go? After that, if you get the client and you secure your client, say for example, instance for me, if I get a client who wants me to write a blog post, later on I can tell the client, hey, I think maybe you need some help with your website copy, like your about page. It's not giving a very good way. Then I can sort of upsell from there. But you have to get your foot in the door first, and in order to start creating content, you sort of need to know where it might not be overnight. You might not know this immediately. When I started Mini Marketing Hacks, I was like, I don't know, whatever lah, but now I know it's a new setup because after about 9 months of testing, I'm like, okay, this is what I'm comfortable doing because Mini Marketing Hacks is not my bread and butter. My writing business is my bread and butter. So, but I still want to help. I still want people to go somewhere, and I still want to create resources that are easy for me to create and are easy for you to consume. So it's sometimes takes a while, and sometimes you have to trial and error because I've launched products that didn't work, and I have no regrets. It's a bit upsetting, I'm only human. I'll be like, so serious.
Nobody buy.
Right?
Exactly.
But then I learned from that because I'm like, maybe I didn't test it enough. Maybe I didn't validate the idea. Maybe it's not what maybe I'm thinking my audience wants that, but actually they don't.
It's not.
So you have to know that you be comfortable with what you are, know what your goal is, and then trial and error. And then
I like what you mentioned actually, like content that are consumable and easy to do. I think that's one thing that a lot of people, when they think about like writing or like newsletter, it's a lot of like words and like
difficult,
too much to handle. Difficult. And then just the thought of it, right? Then they will not even like put their foot inside, with your feet inside.
Guilty.
So I like it. I like it when you mentioned that it's like consumable because that's what you can kind of like debug or like debunk like those like writing myths and stuff like that. Would that be quite cool
so like
writing myths?
There are a lot, but I think one of the
we can share.
There are a few is a lot of people come up to me, oh Manisha, you writer, you got read all the classic Charles Dickens, don't know who, Leo Tolstoy. I'm like, no, I never read because first of all, I come from a background where I come from a very small town in Brunei, right? And I was not exposed to classics. I was not exposed to literature.
Right.
It wasn't even a subject.
Mm.
Library was half an hour every week. Library. It's not even literature, library. Like you're forced to read. Okay for me, because I like to read, right?
Right.
But I never grew up knowing all these big authors and stuff like that. And then people always ask me, oh, so what is a pronoun and what is a proverb? And I'm like, something. Because I'm not a technical writer. I believe in writing from the heart. And in that sense, then everybody is a writer. Yes. That's one thing that always people, if you write like that, then everybody also can write. Yeah, everybody also can write. Everybody is a writer. You write emails, you write messages, you write, I don't know, love letter to your boyfriend, girlfriend. I don't know. Right? So everyone's a writer. That's one of the myths that people are like, no, I have to be professionally trained to be a writer. No, you don't. Okay, that's number one. I think the second part is a lot of us think that when we write, we have to write very big pieces. Like you have to write a book, you have to write a novel. I mean, if you can, great lah. But even in fact, I think yesterday night I was talking to someone about how long your writing pieces must be. And I brought up an interesting point where I'm like, microblogging is actually a thing. So whatever you write in your Instagram captions, those long stories that you tell, that's actually blogging, but on a different platform. So a lot of us are like, no lah, I don't write, I don't blog. Actually, you're already doing it, and you don't even realize. Like, I love giving this example of my mom. So my mom is not tech savvy at all. She only know how to use Facebook because she's like, oh, what is Facebook? One day she just woke up and she was like, what's Facebook? Why is everybody on this thing? So I taught her whatever I could. But because my mom she has both her kids are in Singapore, and she has nobody, like just 1-2 friends. So her life is just on her iPad, you know. And she's always curating content.
Oh, wow.
Surprisingly, one day when I went back to Brunei, I noticed her iPad photo album filled with quotes and like cute pictures. I'm like, Mom, why do you keep this? She's like, oh, sometimes if I'm bored, then I share with my friend. I just keep in my archive lah. And then I'm like, Mom, you are doing content curation, you know, because you keep in your bank or your archive of content. And then, like, say, for example, someone is feeling sad, then she will send them this sad image, like motivational quote. And I'm like, wow, this is like, hello, my mother, you know, like content curation guru. Yeah, so and she doesn't use, she's like, what is curation? What is this word? I don't know what you're talking about, right? But we are all already doing it. So that's one of the biggest myths that we have is, oh, I don't know how to do it. I don't know what it is. I'm not talented. I don't have the skill.
All right, thank you, Manisha, for sharing. I feel that there's a lot of tips and tricks that we can definitely learn from you. So where can our viewers and listeners connect with you?
Sure. So if you are on Instagram, you can follow me at Mini Marketing Hacks. That's Mini, MINI, Marketing, MARKETING, Hacks, HACKS. And I also have my links on Instagram itself, so you can just follow me from there.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for being on board, Manisha. We wish you all the best.
Thank
for
you.
those of you who like our content, do follow us on the Freelancers Academy on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Telegram. And I'll see you soon.